Worried that the parts supply for your R32 Nissan Skyline GT-R is drying up? Well, you can rest easy now that Nissan has announced the Nismo Heritage program. The program is a joint effort between Nissan, its Nismo Racing division, tuning company Autech Japan, and suppliers to provide parts for aging Nissan performance models, starting with the R32. Nismo has been working with GT-R owners to learn what parts are hardest to find and most critical to operation and passing inspection in Japan. Beginning on December 1st, Nismo Heritage will sell 80 new parts for the 1989 to 1995 Skyline GT-R, including wiring harnesses, hoses, and exterior parts like bumpers and emblems. If a part can't be reproduced, Nismo will explore remanufactured alternatives. After launch, Nismo Heritage will consider adding more parts to the R32 catalog, and also decide whether there is enough demand to expand the range to R33 and R34 GT-R models. Please get some Z-Car parts cooking while you're at it, Nismo. While this doesn't change the fact that the Skyline wasn't sold in the US, models from the 80s and early 90s are now legal for importation. So if you were on the fence about paying thousands to import a 25-year-old GT-R before on account of parts availability, your path to the Japanese supercar of your dreams is now clear.
Having a hard time getting parts for your R32 GT-R? Well, under this new program from Nissan's motorsport arm, it's about to get easier. Nismo have just announced that they will make brand new OEM parts available to owners of the R32 Skyline GT-R. The new program will be called Nismo Heritage and brings together Nissan Motor Company, Limited, Nissan Motorsports International Company, Limited, Autech Japan, Incorporated, and various other suppliers. Nissan says they will initially start offering about 80 parts for the R32 Skyline GT-R, a model produced between August 1989 and January 1995. The initial catalog of brand new, remanufactured parts would include harnesses, hoses, emblems, body panels and more. Parts that Nissan say are needed to pass certification tests. Depending on the success of the program, the company is considering expanding not just the range of parts on offer beyond the initial count, but also to include components for the R33 Skyline GT-R and the R34 Skyline GT-R. The company says that if certain parts can no longer be reproduced or remanufactured, they will consider other methods of supplying such as refurbishing, rebuilding, or substituting. The Nismo Heritage parts will be displayed at this year's Nismo Festival at the Fuji Speedway. There is, however, one catch: Nissan only mentioned that the parts will be available to customers in Japan. So, if you're in need of R32 parts, it's a good time to have a friend living in Japan to reship it for you.
The main disadvantage of owning a classic car is that replacement parts aren't always readily available. Thankfully, Nissan wants to change that. Together with the newly formed Nismo Heritage program, the company has come up with a solution. R32 Skyline GT-R owners can now order replacement parts directly from the manufacturer. The Japanese automaker announced earlier in the week that it would be restarting production of specific R32 Skyline parts, which were originally produced alongside the R32 from August 1989 to January 1995. The replacement parts will go on sale in Japan on December 1st, and will include more than 80 items, everything from new front bumpers, to hoses, to emblems, and a number of other exterior components. It's the first run in what Nissan hopes will be a long line of Nismo Heritage program products. The company admits that even more replacement parts for the R32 could be added to the range in the near future, and that the series could extend beyond the R32 to cars like the R33 and R34, making it even more tempting to pick up a Skyline on the used market. Of course, the R32 Skyline was an obvious first choice. The supercar was recently named the best Nissan Nismo race car of all time, recording overall victories at the Spot 24 in 1991, the Australian Touring Car Championship in 1991 and 1992, and wins in every Japanese Touring Car Championship race from 1990 to 1993 in its time on the track. Nissan has yet to list a price for the proposed replacement parts, but don't expect them to come cheap. The entire catalog of parts made their debut at the annual Nismo Festival at the Fuji Speedway this past weekend, and will go on sale in less than a week.
Nissan wants Japanese R32 GT-R owners to be able to play the long game with the help of the just-launched Nismo Heritage program. The car maker, and Nissan tuner Autech, studied the array of replacement parts for the coupe first nicknamed Godzilla. Focusing on components necessary to keep the R32 running and able to pass vehicle inspections, Nismo Heritage chose around 80 parts to reproduce to OEM spec. Nissan built the motorsports monster R32 from 1989 to 1995, and the GT-R enjoyed turbo-boosted popularity thanks to the Sony PlayStation game Gran Turismo, the Japanese television series Initial D, and the Fast and the Furious franchise. According to a UK GT-R forum, Nissan built 43,934 units of the R32, far more than the R33 and R34, but still a specialty proposition. After nearly 3 decades of fanatic owners, hard driving, and wild modifications, some OEM pieces are difficult to source. The Nismo Heritage program opens to the Japanese market first. Bits like harnesses, hoses, pulleys, exterior pieces such as the front bumper, and emblems go on sale on December 1st. Nissan says it will watch the market, and could increase the R32 parts list with substitute, rebuilt, or overhauled components if a shortage of other critical parts becomes evident. Eventually, the program plans to expand its offerings to the R33 and R34 models.
We're just 1 week away from the 2017 Los Angeles Auto Show, so Subaru's latest teaser will probably be one of the last you'll see before actual cars take the stage. Subaru gave the public a peek inside the forthcoming 2019 Subaru Ascent 3-row SUV, ahead of its debut on November 28. There isn't much in the way of surprises here. There are, in fact, 3 rows of seats, 4 doors, some windows and some nice-looking brown leather. It's a car. Subaru isn't reinventing the wheel here. This 7-seater is believed to use a 2.4-liter turbocharged flat-4 engine, and it's unclear if the flat-6 from the Outback and Legacy will eventually make an appearance. Like every other Subaru on sale today, the Ascent will pack standard all-wheel drive. The teaser also gives us a peek at the Ascent's headlights, which look the same as other new Subaru models. It's pretty close to the Ascent concept that debuted earlier this year at the New York Auto Show, which was itself an evolution of the gnarly Viziv 7 concept that first heralded this SUV's arrival. We'll see the whole shebang in just about a week's time, so you won't have to wait much longer.
Subaru New Zealand Managing Director Wallace Dumper calls the WRXT the last bastion of the manual gearbox. It's not the last 3-pedal Subaru standing, of course. The more mainstream WRX is still available with a manual transmission, although it's seldom sold with one. Would have been unthinkable a decade ago, but WRX drivers now prefer automatic. Of the continuously variable kind no less. But the WRXT remains manual only, even in its just updated form. In fact, it's the last bastion of quite a lot of things. The WRX range has long since stopped wearing an Impreza badge, but as we all know it's still based on the platform of Subaru's small car. It's just that this particular iteration is no longer on the latest version. The current Impreza and its XV paternal twin are now built on the all-new Subaru Global platform, whereas the WRXT are still riding on the old architecture. If you favor a bit of old-school Subaru Boxer burble, the ST is still the place to go. It's quite restrained, but you definitely get a sense of that thrum that we all used to know and love. the thrum that's long been banished from the rest of the range, which is now rather grown up. There's also a clear link to the lag and launch character of turbo cars from years gone by. There's a definite lull in proceedings below 3,000 RPMs, but then the 2.5-liter boxer turbo comes on boost and things get fast and furious very quickly. The ST is not a particularly easy car to drive smoothly and/or quickly. It's hard to get off the line, the gearbox can feel notchy unless you take a very firm hand with it, and the vast amount of mechanical grip and AWD traction requires a certain slow-in, explode-out cornering technique. You don't get what is perhaps Subaru's greatest technology asset, the EyeSight twin-camera active safety system. It's just been added to the standard WRX, but it's not compatible with manual transmission models, which is the only type of ST model. It's exhausting just talking about it. I might have put you off at this point. Or you might be quite excited to know that the new ST is still old school and over the top. The ST isn't entirely stuck in 1995. The premium model now has steering adaptive headlights with daytime running lights, a front view monitor, which will stop you scraping the new design bumper when you're parking, and a 10-way adjustable power driver's seat. The ST engine meets Euro 6b emissions regulations, and there's a new brake package with 340mm front Brembos and 326mm cross-drilled rotors on the rear. Bright yellow calipers are standard, and perhaps the easiest way to identify the revised model. There have been minor changes to the suspension, and the driver-controlled center differential, DCCD, now allows more precise control of how the AWD system distributes its torque. You still get the SI drive control that gives the choice of 3 modes for the powertrain. It's still a hardcore performance vehicle, no question. The hard ride tells you that. So while it's possible to trundle around town in the ST, leaving the car in intelligent mode and trying your best to keep the engine on the boil without going boost-tastic, that's not really what it's designed for. The WRX Automatic certainly is, while still looking the part and being respectably quick. So if it's a day-to-day Rex you want, that's probably the one. If you want to go real fast, be completely involved and occasionally wrestle with an animal monster, the ST is your car. This is still a serious machine for serious people, more than capable of demolishing a Kiwi backroad or eating up a track day. The old-fashioned feel is all part of the appeal, right? So is the cartoonish quality of the acceleration and grip when you really wind things up. It really takes you by surprise at times. Once upon a time, the ST was the ultimate in small car performance and handling. You could spend all day arguing about whether a Fast 4 was really better than Aussie V8 muscle. Well, the Aussie muscle era is over, and there are any number of hot hatches on the market that are just as fast and powerful as the ST, while being dynamically more sophisticated and much easier to drive quickly. Not to mention much posher inside. The WRX's interior was never that flash, and it's not aging gracefully. Where does that leave the ST? As a nod back to a time when you had to be totally committed to your driving to get the most out of a high-performance turbocharged car. That was a good time. Still love the ST.